Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
And thank you for tuning in. This is the Retro Zoo Super Show. I am one of your hosts, Kai. I am here as always. Oh, wait. You're going to introduce yourself from now on.
My name is...
Not you, Drum.
I thought you were talking about me.
Drum, he's got like an intro thing going.
I was doing my song, Drum. You just stepped on its toes. Okay? This is Steven. Whatever.
I'm sorry.
Kneel before me, Drum, and beg for forgiveness.
He doesn't have knees.
Use your wobbly, spindly legs.
Oh, God.
Curl them up into balls and... No, yeah, this is the co-host, the underling, as I referred to myself last time as. The willing and loving and supportive former helicopter pilot from the Contra missions.
Oh my goodness. Is this like going to be a weekly thing?
Brawny, bold, fearless. Always looking for adventure.
Adventure?
Looking for a lovely lady to join me on that adventure.
What?
If you'd like to contact me, please.
Are you hitting on our audience?
Dude, you said I could kind of do my own little mini intros every time.
Mini. The key word in that was mini.
Well, I hadn't even gotten to the email part. Whatever. Fine. You know what? People know how to contact the Retro Zoo. If they're really interested in me, they can contact our official website. I don't want to be unprofessional about scouring our audience for suitable matches. You know, let's just say, been through a lot of action. I'm bold, I'm heroic, courageous. Don't flinch in the face of danger. In fact, I look it right in the eye and strangle it. Throw it in the ground, put it in a headlock, and pummel it. And give it noogies until it says uncle. That's what I do to danger, ladies. That might have been a bit much. No, I'm just Steven.
Uncle.
Leave Drum alone.
I'm just trying to show him what I'm trying to express.
Oh my goodness.
He gets it. I was actually polishing his dome.
Gosh. Okay, well, all right. So I had to prepare a little bit this week for this week's episode. So, Steven, as you know, but as our listeners, well, they probably know because it's in the title of our episode, we are going to be talking with Sparkover today about the Dragon Warrior Randomizer. So, let me ask you a question, Steven. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
The Dragon Warrior Randomizer is a randomizer created for Dragon Warrior, specifically another game called Dragon Quest, which is one and the same as Dragon Warrior. Now, these games came out in the late 90s, early 90s, somewhere in the 80s, and were great entertainment value for people on the West and East Coast. I don't know. That's just my...
Wow. I mean, it's actually surprising how much of that you got right, and then you like jumped off the cliff of inaccuracy. but you listened to some of what we were doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. I try.
So, oh goodness. But the randomizer. Do you know what this is?
A randomizer is a way of randomizing that which is not random, creating a totally chaotic matrix of unusual shapes and sizes, used for hyperbolic thinking under conditions of anonymity. Was that close?
Sure. Why not? Why not?
Well, like percentage-wise, you were kind of encouraging the first time I was guessing. Was I getting closer? Or am I getting like colder, freezing, okay. Frigid, Arctic?
So what a randomizer is actually the goal of the randomizer is for these games, for these classic, retro games that we've played so many times. We love these games, we adore these games, we play them a lot, but they don't have that sense that we had the first time we played them of, wondering where to go next, wondering what to do next, trying to figure this thing out. Because we know where everything is, and we know where the plot is going, and all this stuff. The randomizer actually takes the game and just shuffles things up, and it grabs it and it shifts everything around. And so there's tons of randomizers out there for different retro games, and it moves things around, so you're not finding them where you expect to find them. You're really not sure where you're supposed to go next, or if you can accomplish what you set out to be. When you especially like in some of the Dragon Warrior things, if you see an enemy, you're not sure how strong that enemy is, because everything, all the stats, all that have been shifted. The Dragon Warrior randomizer is actually my favorite one. And the reason we're having Sparkover on for this is because it was through her channel that I was first introduced to it, because I was flipping around. I didn't know who she was at the time, and I saw, hey, somebody's playing Dragon Warrior. I love Dragon Warrior. And I know Dragon Warrior so well that a quick look at the map, I was like, this isn't Dragon Warrior. This doesn't look right. I know this map like the back of my hand. This is the wrong map. And so I was, watched it and it is Dragon Warrior. It's just the randomizer. So it redoes the entire map. It moves all the towns around. It moves all the items inside the chest around. It can change the abilities, hit points, and benefits from all the enemies. Every time you play it, it creates a new game for you. And so it's just this really fascinating trend that has popped up. The most popular randomizer is the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past randomizer, and you can find races in these randomizers every day on Twitch. But all these games have these randomizers that have been programmed, and they're really fascinating, simply because it's like playing this game brand new. And I was planning on this. We were working with Sparkover, trying to get a good time to talk, and I was like, I'd watched several of these, but I'd never played it. And I'm like, I really need to play this before, talking to someone about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I downloaded it, and it took a lot of time to get it working, because I'm not good at these things. But I finally got things working, and I started playing it, and I was like, well, this is a cool randomizer, but this isn't exactly what I've been watching. And so, at the time, Sparkover and I had been chatting about when's a good time for this, and so I just reached out to her. I was like, I think I'm doing this wrong. And she, and I told her what I was doing, and she was like, yeah, you got an old version. Oh, okay, no problem. And so I found the updated version. and I downloaded it, and it had these file extensions that I've never seen before. And so I was going around the internet trying to figure out what program launches these things, and I kept looking at instructions, how to run this thing, and all the instructions are like double click it, and I'm like, okay, first of all, what am I double clicking, and what is the program that runs it? And they're like, and all the instructions again are like double click it. And I'm like, and so I spend absolute hours on trying to get this thing running again. Until Sparkover saved me one more time and said, no, that's not the updated version. Here, let me hold you by the hand and get you to the right page so you can download the stupid thing. And sure enough, I get there and you double click it. And then it works.
The old double click and switch.
And you do need an emulator, and you do need the Dragon Warrior emulator to run this thing. It does not have a copy of the game, and it's not an emulator itself. What it does is it takes the Dragon Warrior file, it makes changes to it, and then it spits out a new file for you to use on your emulator. And so if you go to our show notes page, technofunkboy.com/35, that's 35 for episode 35, you are going to find links to all of those, everything you need in order to play this game. And there is a very, very vibrant Discord group on for the randomizer. There are very frequent races on Twitch where two or more players get the same seed, and they both try to figure it out at the same time. And some of these are very fun and very interesting, especially if you have played the game before. And so in just a moment here, we're gonna start our chat with Sparkover. But first of all, if you have not signed up for our newsletter or our Patreon, the free music is coming. If you haven't listened to our other Dragon Warrior episodes, by all means go do that. But if you have, you know that we recorded a few songs from the Dragon Warrior soundtrack. We updated them, made our own arrangement, very high energy and fun music. You're really going to like it. We're going to be debuting those songs in a couple of weeks, but if you sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/technofunkboy, you will have those songs early. And if you get on our mailing list, we will mail you direct links to them as well. And so please do get on that. If you have any friends who are into Dragon Warrior, this is the best series to get in on. You are not going to want to miss next week. We've already been working on putting it together. It's going to be something you've not heard before. And so you definitely want to stay tuned to that.
It'll be like tiny fairies dancing on your eardrums.
Right.
Tiny drunken fairies.
Drunken fairies. Dancing on your eardrums.
Yeah.
Swinging
from the little hairs that catch vibrations.
To a funky house beat.
Funky house beat. Funky house beat. Funky house beat. Something like that.
Sorry.
No, we almost had... Okay, no, I think that has to happen again and actually another time. Next time I won't stop, and then we'll just have this whole funky house beat thing. Funky house...
Yes, I promise you next week's episode is not me beatboxing with him repeating funky house beat over and over again for an hour.
But if it was, would you still donate
like 25
to our
minutes.
Patreon? What if there's like some beatbox fans out there? What if we're leaving out the whole beatbox community?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. So what, do we have a killer interview to listen to or what, man?
Yes. And by all means, okay. Y'all listen to Ouija Wee. on the show last week. I do hope that you're checking him out on Twitch. You definitely also want to check out Sparkover's Twitch page. Her channel is a lot of fun. She's very interactive and just she has a lot of fun on the channel, and the chat is a great time, and so definitely check her out as well. Otherwise, let's get to it.
Sweet.
Okay, so on the line we are joined by Sparkover. Sparkover, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, and I told you this, this as we were communicating back and forth, but I've been looking for an excuse to bring you on the podcast because I really love your channel, and I'm definitely a lurker on Twitch because most of the time I'm watching on my television, and I'm trying to get better about being in chat, but I've very much enjoyed your channel, and so thank you. And so I kind of decided, hey, I've seen her play this game before. Let's talk to her about it.
Fantastic reasoning. And by the way, lurking is a beautiful way of life. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
That's great. That's great. So, you are a Twitch streamer. You play actually pretty decent number of games on there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you're playing? And in fact, I guess a few days ago, really, you were also involved in the Retrothon, and I tried my best to stay up, but that was way too early in the morning for me to watch live. But what kind of stuff can people expect from your channel?
For the most part, I'm a retro streamer. For Retrothon, I played Mickey Mania and Home Alone, both for the Super Nintendo. Otherwise, I do Dragon Warrior Randomizer, not as much lately, but will be with the upcoming tournament. My plans for May are going to be grinding out The Legend of Zelda and Dragon Quest for the Super Famicom. Other than that, I play a few modern games too. Super Meat Boy was pretty much the first thing that I really started streaming. And other than that, just random games here and there. For the most part, aside from Meat Boy, it's generally things that I really loved from my childhood. Seems to be what I go towards.
Yeah, and that does seem to be, a theme for a lot of us. I mean, I don't stream that often, but it's mostly games from my childhood. So is that your first experience with Dragon Warrior was growing up?
Funny enough, no. I only played Dragon Warrior for the first time a couple of years ago. I guess it was, I want to say 3 years ago. Back when NES Cardinality was doing a lot of the speed runs, I just kind of watched here and there, and one day I was like, I should try this out. So, yeah, I never played Dragon Warrior until a couple of years ago, but I played through blind the Dragon Warrior 1 to 4 in the Nintendo library, and I want to expand to the next games sometime in the near future.
Yeah, okay, so that's really interesting to me because there's Dragon Warrior's a little bit particular about, grinding time and stuff that has been, like just level grinding in general has been decreasing as we progress with gaming. And so did you find that aspect of the game? Just the fact that Dragon Warrior has almost no plot at all. There's a lot of grinding time. Did you find that to be a struggle getting into it?
I don't feel like it held me back a lot. Honestly, I don't think in the Dragon Warrior itself that was too much of an issue, but what really kind of got to me was the later series when you had parties, when the party would entirely wipe and you had to revive them. The cost of money was pretty bad, coupled with the fact that your gold would be cut in half. So there were some situations where, I'd have to grind with one person for a while and hopefully get enough money to revive the second person, and then the third and the fourth. That was kind of, I think, what got to me in the less fun part.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm actually playing Dragon Warrior 2 very, very casually. Not very often at all, but playing it for the first time. And it's first of all, it's a fantastic advancement off the themes of Dragon Warrior, where they really, I was kind of expecting kind of a slower evolution, but they jumped right into parties, the much more in-depth plot, much bigger world. But yeah, I can totally see that, having to spend that money, having to worry about the levels of all three people in that case all the time is very time consuming and very particular at times.
Yeah, it can get to be a lot, but overall I think it's very rewarding. And I know it's not for everybody, but I played through each of the games blind, like no spoilers whatsoever. In fact, as moderator, is deleting any spoilers or hints in chat. So, there were probably some times when I was bashing my head against the wall trying to figure out what the heck to do, but it was still worth it overall. They are great games, and I would recommend them to people.
Yeah. And okay, so when you say play through it blind, all right, so like when a lot of us started Dragon Warrior, when Nintendo Power gave free copies to everyone in the world, they came loaded with hints. And so did you play even with those, or are you just completely, I have no idea where to go next?
No idea where to go next. It was an experience.
Yeah, and so you had the experience with Dragon Warrior up front that I'm actually finding really, only with the Dragon Warrior randomizer that, like, I never had a purely blind run of Dragon Warrior, because even on my first run, the stuff Nintendo Power sent with you are maps of darn near the entire game. And a list of every single enemy, and up to the Dragon Lord when it just had question marks as to his hit points and all that, but details on every single other enemy, where to go, where to go next, and that sort of thing. And so I never had that sort of blind experience before that actually the randomizer is at least coming close to creating for us.
Yeah, I mean, when the randomizer came out, that was an entirely new experience altogether. Like, it pretty much is, in its own way, playing the game for the first time again and again, and that's something that really drew me into it.
Yeah, and as many times as I've gone through Dragon Warrior, and it was my first JRPG, it's the thing that got me hooked into the genre, and it's now remained an obsession for me now 25 years later. And as many times as I've played it, yeah, this being on the randomizer has really kind of made it a new experience, and a new experience every time. And I've just had a blast watching people play it, and finally completed my first seed the other day. I started a couple of other ones, but I finally completed one, and it was, yeah, it's just like a brand new game every time. It's a blast.
Yeah, and I think that's what really draws people into the randomizers as well. And it's sort of, once you try one, it sort of makes you want to branch out and see what else is in the other ones. But I feel like it's been it makes an interesting community in itself. Like, we have people who have never played the vanilla game of Dragon Warrior at all, and then, of course, people who are very familiar with it. So, sure. Yeah, you draw people from, a lot of different places. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really interests me about it. And just for reference, I'm gonna, we're pre-recording this for the podcast, but I'm gonna go into a little bit of what the randomizer does in the preface to the interview. So we don't have to go into all the gory details about it, but you can really pick what level of randomization you want. But essentially, they're doing the same thing, is that they're shuffling everything around so that it doesn't matter how much you have memorized. It's not going to be that way. You're not going to find the items in the same place. The map is not going to be the same. You're going to have to hunt things down, just like you possibly had to do when you first put that cartridge in the NES back in the day.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you play through that, people have their own ways of deciding how to deal with it. Like, when I would play the Dragon Warrior, through the vanilla series, I would make little maps walking through things. And when I play the randomizer, I still map my way through it, just because that helps me remember, where to go, the things I found. And some people are totally unlike that. They can remember all the things they do on their own, and that's not even a concern to them.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about this, and you know, the primary thing I wanted to talk with you about was like the community aspect of it, because it's really interesting to me. But I did want to ask you how you approached the game, because I had a plan going into it, and it turned out to be not a very good plan, and I had to kind of shift around everything along the way. But watching, obviously watching you on stream, watching other people on stream doing tournaments and stuff, it seems like everybody kind of has an idea of, okay, very early on in the game, I fought that skeleton. He gave me a lot of experience. Let me go find that thing again. And so how do you said you made mats. Do you keep track of like the enemies, what they're doing at all? And I mean, this is the chaos seed that we're talking about, when everything gets shifted around. But do you have a system to do that?
Well, in regards to the chaos mode, where all the experience is randomized, I'll generally write down for the early game, I will probably just remember what's around the castle that I can kill right away. For reference for the future, I'll usually write down anything that's 200 or more experience.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Just because that's usually where you want your final grind to be headed to.
Mm-hmm.
But I never played very much chaos mode before the tournament. I prefer the non-chaos mode myself.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But it was more fun than I realized it would be in the tournament. So I sort of, made up my strategy as I went. But yeah, I definitely wrote down like either what enemies had, hurt more, or like Dragon Lord Breath, possibly coupled with sleep, just to know to mostly avoid them, or pretty much any interesting notes for things like that, for what to avoid, what to kill, and if it's kind of in the middle, I just wouldn't write it down. Right.
Yeah, they and just for reference back, in the chaos mode, just like everything is shuffled. Like the abilities of the enemies, they might have the Dragon Lord's Breath, they might have sleep, they might have anything. Their hit points you're not going to know what to expect there. Their experience, anything like that, and that makes for some really interesting seeds. I think it was probably in that same tournament, and I can't remember who it was that was running it, but I watched one where, it took one player an hour to find an enemy they could actually beat in combat. And then at the end of the game, the Dragon Lord 2 had sleep and was resistant to all magic. And so was just making the seed super long and miserable for everybody. But, that's the kind of stuff that might pop up, and you don't know, don't know until it happens.
Yeah, I always kind of secretly feared that I would have to play a seed like that, but thankfully the 3 that I had to play were, pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I felt fortunate for that.
Right. So I mean, just a note as to, why we're chatting on this is the reason I found your channel to begin with was I had no idea what the randomizer was. And I was, kind of flipping through, the people I followed on Twitch, none of them were streaming at the time. I was like, oh, well, let's see if anybody's playing Dragon Warrior. I love Dragon Warrior, and saw you there and clicked on it, and I was like, this looks like Dragon Warrior, smells like Dragon Warrior, but I know the Dragon Warrior map like the back of my hand. I've played this game like 10 times. This isn't Dragon Warrior. And so that really got me hooked. And I sat there transfixed for the next however long going, this is amazing. And then that got me kind of, realizing, hey, there are tournaments of this. And then eventually got me into the Discord channel that is like, wait a minute, there's races of this like all the time. And so you introduced me to this world that I'm getting slowly sucked into, as time goes on. And so yeah, first of all, I appreciate that. And I was glad to find your channel, because of it.
Yeah. And that's definitely a fantastic introduction to the whole randomizer, just sort of expecting, Dragon Warrior, and then being like, well, it is, but it's a little different.
Right. Yeah. It took me a little while to figure out what was going on, but I had seen some Link to the Past randomizers, which is, actually, I'm not a big randomizer fan, but I enjoy watching Link to the Past and I enjoy watching the Dragon Warrior one. And for some reason, I find those two fascinating and none of the other ones. But I'm sure that if I actually started playing all the other ones, I would get deeper into this abyss that that is slowly taking over my soul. But
they'll do that to you.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on is that, you know, getting into first of all, Twitch itself is kind of renewing the community aspect of gaming that I feel like we've been losing for a long time. But then getting deeper into that, getting into like a Discord community, getting into these races, is somehow y'all have managed to make playing a JRPG a social event, which it's never been before. And I never could have predicted that. You know, JRPGs were always the things that you played, you know, by yourself in a dark room late at night. And all of a sudden, y'all are having fun with friends on it. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, I guess I had never really played any JRPGs until Dragon Warrior myself as well, but I mean, it's just pretty remarkable that, you know, people coming from all these different places will, you know, get together and, as you said, make it into a social event. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's really grown over the years too. Like, I never saw Dragon Warrior Randomizer like right when it had started, but I was definitely there early enough to like watch the community grow and expand. So that's been pretty neat to watch. Just, you know, people trickling in from here and there, and we've expanded quite a bit over the past couple of years, and very nice to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I'm not involved in a lot of Discord channels, but of the ones that I'm on, I get notifications on the Dragon Warrior Randomizer one a lot more often than any other ones. And so, you know, there definitely is a sense of community and a very positive and supporting one. And, you know, you have these races, but you know, I get in on chat on that, and it's just, it's just the speedrunning community in general, and I feel like I might be wrong on this, but I feel like the randomizer community is kind of an offshoot of that. It is very supportive and not at all bitter about losing a world record, about losing a race. There are exceptions, of course, but it's more about supporting each other and hoping to see everybody do well.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite parts about the speedrunning and randomizer community. Both of them, everyone is so supportive of each other. And I mean, even if you get a little salty after bad luck in a race or something, you know, at the end of the day, you know, people are incredibly supportive of each other and just want to see everybody, you know, get better, improve. So it's really great. I mean, I just feel like it's probably a little unique in that sense where, you know, we're competitive, but at the same time, you know, we want everyone to do well. It's not like we're like hoarding secrets of what we do to try and get better. You know, we all share what we do, and
right.
Therefore it's better overall.
Yeah. It's truly remarkable, and it really does contrast with a lot of the stuff that gamers have set up in the past that have been just, you know, competitive in the bad way and not in the good way that I think we're all trying to establish now. And, you know, hoarding secrets and not being open about things. But, you know, I've found everybody, so far to be very supportive. And you, in fact, solved all my computer problems as I was continually downloading the wrong program to actually play this game. And so, thank you for that, by the way. But, you know, it's like, off air, Ouija and I talked about the randomizer last week some, and he's been ridiculously supportive too about getting me involved and playing and trying to help along the way. And so I love that about the community, and I think it is competition, like you said, but it's of the most healthy kind, and because it's of the most healthy kind, it's the most fun for all of us. And I never really have a bad time looking at these races, even if my person in the race loses.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Like, there are so many races. For the most part, it's just like, I don't know who to root for. I like all of you. Let's have a fun race.
Right. Yeah. And I'm getting to that point where I'm getting to know more and more people. It's like it used to be a lot easier when I'd only recognize like 2 names in the race. This is like, okay, I'll cheer for those people because I've watched their stream before. But yeah, the more I get into it, it becomes like that as well. But, if people want to find out what this is all about, I think you mentioned that there's an upcoming race that you're going to be in training for. Is that right?
By race, you mean tournament?
Tournament, yeah.
Yes, we are in the planning stages of the yearly Dragon Warrior Randomizer tournament. I don't believe we have nailed down the dates quite yet, but I believe starting sometime in August should be most likely.
Okay, all right.
And I believe this will be the 3rd year in a row for the standard, like the non-chaos mode tournament. So I do look forward to getting to play a lot of Randomizer again to, sort of de-rust myself with it, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
So in this particular tournament, what is it that gets randomized?
So in this one, you will, of course, have the maps randomized, the treasure locations. Enemies, their stats will not be randomized, but they still can have the spells or Dragon Lord breath. So those are still things to watch out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there locations randomized, or are you going to see slimes and red slimes and Drakis around the castle?
There generally is like a couple weaker zones right around the castle.
Okay,
like the slimes, the Drakis will be in the zone 0, and then there is a slightly more powerful zone beside that. But other than that, all of the enemies will be randomized in every other space.
Wow.
Though in the Sherlock Castle, it will be only the most powerful enemies that will be there, because in Chaos Mode it was sort of based off of their stats, but because all the stats for the enemies are the same, it'll just be, what will it be? You could have I believe a Golem is a new addition to that group, but Golem, Red Dragon, Blue Dragon, Stone Man, Armored Knight, and Axe Knight, I believe, are the 6 enemies that can potentially be on the rotation for Sherlock.
Nice. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, it's like in the 1 seed that I finished, and it was on Chaos Mode. It ended up being just a ghost in Sherlock Castle, and the ghost did not hit very hard. And I was sitting there wondering, why is he in there? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, the high defense probably got him in, because I could barely hit him for more than about 2. And so everything else was really just wiping me out in that thing. But I was so happy every time I hit a ghost, because it's like, well, might not be able to hurt you, but you're not hurting me either, so it'll give me time to run away.
Bit of a trade-off, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's coming up in August. We definitely want to get people seeing this stuff before then, though. It seems like there's, I see announcements on Discord that there are some pretty regular, just races. Are these kind of spur of the moment, or is there like a particular night where races normally happen?
We have been working on reviving the weekly races,
Nice.
which actually are on Wednesdays at 9:00 Eastern, I believe. So I'm going to try and enter those as often as I can. But otherwise, for the most part, there does seem to be a small little group of people who I think just about every night they will be asking in the race channel, hey, who wants to race tonight? So I feel like it is a pretty close to nightly thing, at least maybe every second night going on currently. So that's nice to see. I definitely, once I have a little more free time, I'm looking forward to being able to race some more myself as well.
Fantastic. So yeah, for those of you listening who want to see this, the races are happening pretty regularly. You can head over to the Discord channel to see more about when that is and who's involved. We'll definitely be watching out for the tournament in August. That's for sure. And we'll make everybody aware of when that is. But I mean, for I guess, definitely Dragon Warrior fans, but it sounds like possibly for people who haven't played it before either. This is a lot of fun to play, and of course available to download for free. And so we'll put links in there. It's very entertaining, and I can see it very quickly becoming something regular that I'm going to be doing. And as much as I'm going to resist it, at some point y'all are going to drag me into a race, and I think it's going to be over for me at that point. I'm just going to become obsessed.
And yeah, also as mentioned, it's a very supportive community. So, even if you're not familiar with Dragon Warrior at all, people will help you. They'll help you beat it. They'll help you walk you through a seed if you want. And just for reference, I believe it was our first tournament. It was won by someone who had never even played Dragon Warrior Vanilla before. So anything can happen.
Yeah, and I guess it should be noted. So the map is randomized, but you're looking for the treasure chest, and the caves are laid out the way they are in the game. And so
yes, the cave maps are exactly the same as in the game, so you can even look those up online.
Right, yeah, and it's been a while since I played the NES version of it, and so I had the cave maps on one screen as I was doing it to find out where the treasure chests are. And so if you learn the pattern, it's like, okay, when you get the magic key, you can do this, this, and this, and you're ultimately looking for, well, about 4 required items, and as much as the of the really nice non-required items as possible, and go for there. It was never a really complicated game to begin with, and so it works out really nicely for like a beginner to randomizer, because you're looking for a limited number of things in a limited number of places. And so it's just a matter of, well, finding those places and then remembering, okay, I have the key, so now I can get to the cave underneath the castle because I have the key there, and that opens up a couple of treasure chest rooms and that sort of thing, and go from there.
Yeah, and even in the randomizer program, there are a few different options that can actually even take out some of those things. Like there is not requiring magic keys option.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, or there's like an open Sherlock or a short Sherlock. I've never done those myself, but assuming from that probably means open Sherlock would mean you don't need to find the rainbow drop, which essentially means you don't need to find the key items. And then short Sherlock, I believe there's just a top and a bottom floor with no dark maze in the middle.
Oh, that's interesting. I totally even just skipped over those options because I went right down to chaos because I really like it. And so I should totally play with those. So yeah, so an open Sherlock Castle is you're really just you're at that point kind of looking for Erdrick's armor and Erdrick's sword, or as much money as you can find to buy the stuff, buy the other items that you might want, and that could be a very short seed.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much people have played with those, but it could be an option for if you want to get into it and want it to be maybe a little bit less scary to get into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the other side, we also have an option to cover the map with 75% swamp, which are damage tiles, which will hurt you unless you happen to have Erdrick's armor. So,
right.
The randomization can go both ways.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually one of the seeds that I couldn't finish. It wasn't the map was 75% swamp, but I started in the middle of a swamp and I was level 1.
That can't just happen on its
own.
Yeah,
and that does happen. And the swamp was big enough that I couldn't reach the end of it with more than about a hit point left. And every enemy around me, was faster than me and hit harder than me. And so I'd walk like 6 steps into the swamp and then die instantly. And I didn't beat anybody for an hour. And so I was like, I would have to play this whole thing in a race or a tournament, but I don't today. And so I just moved on with my life. But yeah, that sort of thing can happen. And so, yeah, 75% swamp, that would be brutal. So I mean, that's just like an additional, there's several, like settings on there that can increase difficulty. You know, how fast you level is, it's got to be a big one. Doing 75% swamps could prove to be a very, very difficult seed.
Yeah, I mean, because especially in the first few levels when you exit the castle and have, you know, a very small amount of hit points, though I believe you actually are given a little boost of HP on the big swamp seeds, but
nice.
Still if your castle location is not optimal, then, you know, it will be hard to get yourself out of that swamp. So it's going to be a lot of walking around and hoping you can swipe at an enemy that can level you up before you can even get out of there.
Exactly. So, so in like tournament play, do you typically use like the very fast leveling up or standard, or does that vary?
Usually for tournaments, the leveling speed is fast, which is the middle of the three. There's normal, which was the default, fast, which I believe is 75% required, and then very fast, which is 50%. Fast is the default. I believe if both racers are able to agree on using a different one, then they may do that. Don't quote me on that directly, though, because that rule might be different come the tournament. But
sure. Generally,
for any of the non-standard options, if both players agree on it, then I believe it's generally A-okay to do for the match.
Right. Yeah. And the last thing I want to bring up for people who might be interested, but remember the level grinding in Dragon Warrior. You know, a lot of the races and tournaments that I've seen, you know, these things, these seeds, you know, might last an hour and a half. On the high side, the one I mentioned earlier was like 3 hours before, they just agreed to stop playing, which was a lot more patience than I would have had with that thing, because I was getting frustrated just watching it. But, this is not going to be like a 10-hour game.
No, not at all. Though I do remember back in the day when like Randomizer was, you know, younger and not quite as refined, there were some races that we do that were like 3 hours, 4 hours. This was back on the day of only normal leveling speed, I believe. And also another change that was made was that a lot of the monsters, I believe, give you the experience that they do in the remakes of like the Super Famicom, where, you know, it's less of a grind in that game overall.
Sure.
So, you know, you're not at the Dragon Warrior NES defaults, so that does help you out a bit too. Right.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, just as far as fun, features, and community, this has been a great experience for me starting to get into, and you know, I'm lurking even in the Discord channel at this point too, and so. Even at this point, this has been an absolute blast to both watch and play. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to chat about it today is because I mean, McGrew, who developed the randomizer, has managed to make this game, which is a lot of fun anyway, into something new, changing, and just y'all are building an incredible community around it, and I think it's been fantastic.
It's been so great. I mean, I have made like so many like real friendships out of a lot of the people I've met here. Like, I've gone to a couple of GDQs. We have had in-person races there that have been fun. And I mean, you know, even for the people that I haven't met, there's just so many great people in the community, and you know, it just keeps expanding, and it's so neat. I love the internet. Yeah. I love Twitch. It's so cool.
It really. Oh my goodness! And I mentioned this to you as well when we were chatting offline. Is that doing this podcast has first of all allowed me to talk to some really awesome, fun, cool people. But it really just seems like, it seems like the, Twitch in general, and I know saying in general is lumping a lot of people into this that it doesn't apply to, but, everybody is so open to me and has been so nice to me, and willing to answer questions. I really need to get to a GDQ because every story I hear from it is that it's more fun, outside of the stream room than it is inside. And I have a blast just watching the stream. So I really need to get to one and just hang out with everybody because it seems like a blast and that everybody is just so amazing and nice.
Yeah, true enough. If there's anything I've learned about GDQs, attending them, you see the schedule, you're like, yes, I want to see all these things. And then you get there and it's like, well, I could go into the stream room, but all my friends are here. Like, it's really a one-of-a-kind thing. It's like, just there's all these people that you probably would have never met otherwise. And, we're all very like-minded, so it's just so easy to get along with people. And, even though if a lot of us tend to be shy, I know that seems to be video game people being shy. Who knew?
Right.
But I find that, even though since we're all there and have talked online a little bit and have common interests like that, it's, very easy to just go up to someone and start chatting with them. So it's been great.
Yeah. I think that Twitch in general and in Discord, also helping with this has given those of us who, back in the 90s were, in our rooms playing Final Fantasy VI on Fridays and Saturday nights, cause we were shy. I say we, I mean me. And, just this outlet to find people who get excited about the same stuff that we do. You are as far away from me, that we can possibly get while still being on the same continent. But, we, even the two of us have had great conversations about this stuff already. And I've been overwhelmed by the number of people I've been able to talk to because of the internet, because of Twitch, because of Discord, that has just, it's been a really cool thing that just did not exist when I was a high school nerd. And, there were 3 of us in the corner table of, the lunchroom.
Yeah, it really blows me away. I mean, of course, I've pretty much grown up with the internet most of my life, but I don't know, years ago, I could never have imagined, a place where we play video games on the internet and then other people will come watch us, and it was just such a neat concept. But
oh yeah, back in the day, when I told people I enjoyed watching people play video games, they looked at me like I was crazy, and now an entire industry is built around it. So I was revolutionary. I'm going to flat out say it, that this was all because of me. I started the trend.
Totally.
I don't believe that for a second, but we'll go with it. So anyways, I am going to put links to your Twitch channel, to Twitter, all that good jazz in the show notes. I really do appreciate you joining us today. We'll also link over to where people can download the randomizer, the right place, not the places
the correct
I went.
One?
Right. Not the 2 different ones that I downloaded that were wrong. And as well as the other stuff that you will need in order to play it. But once you get the right one, it's super easy and it's really a lot of fun. And so we will provide links to all of this great jazz, and really appreciate you being with us today. Any last words that we need to know about the randomizer or anything?
It is a lot of fun, and you should definitely join us. We will be there with welcoming you with open arms. And even if you aren't interested in playing, it's still a lot of fun to watch the tournament. So hopefully anybody listening to this will at least check it out in August Or September, probably August. And again, thank you very much for having me here.
Absolutely, for sure. And we are actually in discussion to continue this general discussion on the randomizer next week. And so, if this has piqued your interest, please stay tuned. But do jump in and all that. And Sparkover, it's been an absolute blast having you on. So thank you so much.
It's been a lot of fun to be here.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening. Keep gaming. And once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time, then you can game later.